Hi, my name's Sarah, and today I'm going to be talking you through how I got this really cool vomit green hair color. I did it all myself. Had years of horrible practice from when I was a kid, and I tried to do my own hair all the time, and it just turned out disgusting. And I basically ended up just killing my hair, but like thinking back, it really taught me a lot about how not to kill my hair. In the future. People who know me these days might not realize that I used to dye my hair with crazy colors like pink and purple and green and yellow, bright yellow at one point. Because I've had just plain brown long hair for a really long time. Because my hair was so damaged at one point, I just wanted to grow it all out as long as I could. And my end goal was actually to do something like this, to have like a brown ombre from my natural color down to either blonde, like originally a blonde, and then I could dye it whatever color I wanted. And that's been the plan for like a really long time. But I just kept putting it off because I hate interacting with people in real life, and so I decided, fuck it, this year is the year that I finally do my hair the way I want to do it, and I might as well just do it myself. I had like a little bit of practice, so I ended up doing it, and I kind of did it like a little bit of a strange way, but because I have literally zero professional knowledge on this, like this is the only way I felt confident enough to be able to get it evenly and add a nice gradient. The last time I attempted this on my hair was when I was really young, about 15, so it was about 10 years ago. And I bleached the ends while my hair had previously been dyed bright red, and it wasn't a semi-permanent red, it was a permanent red. And so the ends turned bright orange, and I made no effort to create like a gradient on my hair whatsoever. Yeah, that was really gross. It looked pretty cool in like one picture maybe, but it was a very gross hairstyle, and I think I cried for a really long time. And I think I ended up just dyeing it back over with red, and it looked cool at that point because it was like a lighter red and then a darker red. But anyway, this time I wanted to like work really hard to try and get like a proper gradient, so I ended up putting my hair, sectioning my hair off into 4 points. So it was around behind my ear here, so that I didn't have any of those length bits, those long bits behind my ear. I sectioned it off into 4 points, and I made sure that it was down at the bottom of my hairline, so that the hair length all around my head would be the same length, so that when I dyed the ends, because if you pull it up like this and you bleach it, then it's not going to be at the same level. You're going to have multiple different levels, because that's kind of how you layer hair. When you layer hair, you pull it like higher up and you cut straight across, because while it may be blunt up here, down here it becomes more layered and rough. So I separated it into 4 sections, 2 for the back and 2 for the front, and I pulled them tight to the bottom, and I made sure that they were really tight so that they wouldn't come loose, and then I would be bleaching like random bits of hair that were falling out everywhere. And the reason why I did 4 instead of like the traditional pigtails is because I watched this video by Sophia Nygaard, and she was doing a video where she was trying to DIY cut her own hair, and she did 2 pigtails and cut blunt along them, as suggested by the video that she was following, and she ended up with this horrible bob like at the back, because when you pull your hair forward, those lengths at the end, at the back, are much longer than the ones at the front. If I had have done 2 pigtails, the ombre at the back would have been much more uneven. It would have been kind of like a U shape, which is okay, but that's not really what I was going for. And then I got rubber bands and I pulled them down the length, okay, at specific intervals. So the first one I did was about halfway down the length of my hair, and then there was another one halfway in between the end point and that middle length. And what that was the upper rubber band represents the no-go point. Yeah, like do not go above this point. And I felt like I needed that guide, because when you're doing your own hair and you're kind of winging it, because I'm not a professional, you go much higher than you think you want to go. And I mean, I kind of wish I had gone higher, but I'm glad I had that guide for the first time, because you never know how it would end up. And then that middle point between the middle and the end, again, was a way for me to measure the bleaching points. So when I bleached the very ends first so that they would get the lightest. And then 5 or 10 minutes in after doing that, I bleached up from the ends to the first rubber band, so that would start to lighten up. And because the end part is on, because the end part was treated first, it means that that's already had a head start and it's getting a little bit lighter before that upper part. And then I cut the rubber bands off the bottom parts, and I did just above where that rubber band was, and I left that for about 20 minutes. And then I did up to the last rubber band was my last, the stopping point rubber band, and I left that for about 5 to 10 minutes. That's how I bleached it. Then when I finished bleaching it, I cut those last rubber bands out and I took out the hair bands, and I shampooed my hair completely to make sure that there were no traces left. And I did a full leave-in conditioner treatment. I conditioned my hair after shampooing it in the shower, and then I left on a lot of leave-in conditioner at the same time to try and get it to not go really dead. And then I had to wait for it to dry completely so that I could see what color I ended up with, so that I could figure out what kind of green I was going to get when I put on, and if I should continue bleaching. And it ended up making a pretty good, very brassy ombre. It was pretty okay. It wasn't too dark. It was past that red point, a little bit past that orange point, but still in that kind of brassy area, blondie brassy. Because my hair hasn't been treated, it was all natural. It was a much easier process, and I didn't want to bleach it for much longer than an hour, especially since I knew that I was dyeing over it, which means that I didn't have to bleach it to that white point unless you're wanting to get a lilac or a really, really pale color, or you're trying to go for something like blue, which when you combined blue and yellow tones turn into a green. What I was going for was a vomity, bright grungy green color, so I knew that when I applied my color over the brassy tones, it would do exactly what I wanted it to do. Yeah, and so the color I used was actually Arctic Fox's Phantom Green, which is actually a blue-green tone, which I'm not really a fan of, but by having those yellow tones in my hair, it turned into more of like a lovely green, like a yellowy green. This is my first time using Arctic Fox's dye. It is amazing. Like, I'm 100% going to use this dye again. I put it back into the 4 separate ponytails to make sure that the colour would stay even. So I drenched the ends in Phantom Green dye, and then I left that for about 30 minutes. I didn't worry too much about creating an ombre effect with the green because I knew that the colours underneath were already pre-blended, so that it should help. Because I did my hair in those sections when I bleached it, when you take it out, it has a little bit less of a regular shape than if you were to hold it straight and bleach immediately across. So that kind of helps the colour look a little bit more like grungy and natural. And then I washed it out under cold water, which is what it suggests you do to help the pigments stick to the hair. And I had been reading about the Phantom Green, like Arctic Fox's dye, and someone mentioned that when you rinse it out, barely any colour comes out, and it like kind of it feels like the colour's just kind of sucked up into your hair. And that's exactly what happened to me, and it was kind of amazing. I've never seen a dye do that before, ever. And I was using like a lot of it. It just came out clear water. You could kind of feel it coming out, kind of like a moisturizer, but very little actual dye came out of my hair, and it looked exactly the same as it did when it had been applied wet, like with a bunch of it on. It was pretty amazing. So then I rinsed it out. I applied another conditioning treatment over the top of it, like a leave-in conditioner by Lush. They have really good ones. And then I let it dry, and this is kind of what it ended up to be. It took me about like a day, but that's with conditioning treatments and letting it dry 100%. Yeah, I think it's really cute. Kind of has that grungy, like new age grungy kind of look to it. So, I mean, tell me what you think. I think it's cute. Do you think I did a horrible job with my like DIY attempts at bleaching my own hair, or do you think I kind of made it work? It's by no means professional in the slightest. So that's basically it. That's exactly what I did to get this green, vomit green, like ombre look. Obviously I'm obsessed with it. I just keep playing with my hair and looking in the viewfinder. If you think it looks cool, let me know. And feel free to check out more pictures of my hair on Instagram. I posted a couple already. It looks a little bit brighter in real life. It looks a little bit dark here, but in sunlight it looks much better. So some pictures on Instagram will be a little bit more true to life. And feel free to like, follow, subscribe, all of that random stuff. And I'll see you later.